Hey everyone, I'm Brian Cahill with God and Country, Tales of the Old Guard. Thank you all that have been watching this. It's been an honor. It's been a lot of fun. Uh, I do have a small favor to ask. 1% of you are subscribed and watching it, and I know from getting to see the analytics, which is a pretty cool thing to me, thousands of you are watching it. So if you would please just like and subscribe, hit that button, and comment. Tell me the things that you like, the things that you don't like, things that you would like to see. Put those in the comments, and I will try my best to answer all of them. Again, I have enjoyed this journey. Thank you for your service. Stay salty.
All right, I'm going to begin. Um, I'd like to welcome my guest, Staff Sergeant Michael Cummings. Unless did you get promoted while I was
Not
gone?
yet. No,
Okay,
that's not going to happen.
I had the same problem. He is with Charlie 168. He is nearing the end of the tour, so to speak. You're
Yep,
very close to retirement.
236 days.
Wow, you can taste it.
Yeah, it's right there.
It's like, first off, just thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you.
It was always a pleasure working with you at the hangar. We will have guest appearances by Kikoa. He'll be slipping in here once in a
Yeah,
while.
we're best friends now.
Yeah, somebody offered him cheese and paid the cheese tax, so now
That's right.
we have a guest on here. Now, you just came back from your last AT annual training.
Yep.
How does that feel, knowing that Yakima Training Center is in the rearview mirror for good?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I hit the year mark to go in my career, and no more extensions. It'll be 21 years total. And this last year, I kind of mentally set myself to take it all in because this is it. It's gone forever. Um, I learned many years ago because I've had a lot of transitions in my life. Once you walk out that door and onto something else, all that stuff's behind you. So it's good to really soak it in and make those memories and solidify it because there's other things ahead. So
That's
yeah,
we're gonna get to those. I hope to share those
yeah, oh, yeah.
pretty soon. Um, let's go to the beginning of your story. Where did where were you born? Where were you raised?
Oh yeah. It's My life has been a mixed bag of everything, and I've enjoyed every second. But I was born to Laird and Nancy in 1969 in Elgin, Illinois. They're not from Elgin, Illinois. So once my brothers and I were part of the family, they decided to move back to West Virginia, to where their family's from. And we were raised around cousins and uncles and aunts and grandmas, back to the traditional family in southern West Virginia. Um, I, my older brother joined the Army, active Army, and became an armor crewman. I thought that was really cool. He was driving tanks. And, back then stripes had come out and everybody just wanted to be a tanker. And he jumped on that. Spent his career in Germany. He actually extended in Germany to uh, to stay there and be part of that company, that battalion he was in. But the summer, 86, 87, there was a lot of like action movies and things like that. And a young, impressionable teenager, Top Gun had come out, the Alien movies came out, and it was like action, adventure, and military. And my brother was in the Army, and I really want to do something. I'm getting ready to graduate high school. So the summer of 87, I joined the delayed entry program for the Marine Corps.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
Um,
now I got to ask, what kept you from going Army and going to the Marines?
I, I was just young and full of energy and sense of adventure, and I wanted, in the back of my mind, I wasn't consciously thinking it because I love my brother, but I was like, I want to do a little bit better than he did. I want to be a little tougher around the edges. So um, the Army recruiter just didn't reach out in time. I saw a Marine recruiter, and I molded over for about a month, and I'm like, you know, I can go be a Marine. That would be awesome. Um,
Now we're in the Guard. One of the things that's unique about us is we get everybody from all the other branches can come into us, especially if they've already
Yeah.
served, done their basic and NAIT. We usually have like a little Army refresher course if it hasn't been over 5 years. Uh, how big of a gap was it before going from the Marines into the Guard?
Huge gap, massive,
It,
massive. Yeah. So I went to basic in 1988, in the summer after I graduated high school. I did 8 years. I was a radar intercept controller. So I had this nice little digital radar box and all radio racks and crypto and all this fancy stuff. And we literally ran airplanes into each other for dogfights. It was fun. It was exciting.
so you already had a taste of aviation in a sense,
Yeah,
or working in the
yeah,
peripherals.
yeah. More the operational stuff, not maintenance. But um, the Marine Corps is different than the Army, as you can't choose your job, and that was kind of a disappointment for me initially. Um, my recruiter put a whole packet together. I was a volunteer firefighter in our hometown, and I had a stack of certificates. I'd done a bunch of training. I'd been a fire ground officer and drove the fire trucks as a teenager to fires and things like that. And I was like, I want to be a an airfield firefighting specialist. You know, rescue pilots, put fires out on the airfield. And he said, we'll give the best shot we can. Give me all your certs and everything. So submitted a packet, and in the Marine Corps, you get to choose a field. There's usually 6 to 12 jobs in that field, and I chose the field with air crash fire rescue. I'm going to be crash fire. He's like, hey, we'll give it a shot. Marine Corps came back and said, you're going into radar operations.
Wow.
I scored enough on the ASFAB. So it was one of the smart people jobs, even though I was just a little hillbilly from West Virginia. They put me in radar operations, and it put me on a path to going to AIT in California and learning about, you know, aerial combat, just like in Top Gun. But you're not in the airplane. You're sitting on the ground watching a radar scope and doing all the geometries and making all the radio calls to assist the pilots in aerial combat.
Letting them know when the enemy's coming.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, so I got to do that. 8 years. I spent a year in Okinawa, Japan, and numerous exercises in Yuma, the coast of Carolina, Mississippi, California, of course. I missed Desert Storm. I was in during Desert Storm. They kept a rear detachment at my unit because either there was a training level that had to be maintained, or I don't know the whole story. That was a long time ago, but I was chose for rear detachment, and I was a pseudo, I guess, platoon sergeant at the time, because my entire unit left. They loaded up on a boat, did the traditional Marine Corps thing, put the whole unit on a boat, and they floated over through the Mediterranean. But I got to stay at Cherry Point, North Carolina, and I received the new guys out of AIT, trained them up on the systems. We did a few, you know, operational exercises with the airplanes and stuff that were still here, because you have to maintain a force, even though they're deployed during that whole Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Desert Storm. I was kind of maintaining the operational readiness of our radar section.
Now, were you one and done with the Marines? Did you?
I did 2 contracts, 2 4-year contracts, so 8 years. So in '96, I got out. My wife didn't want me to get out. She wanted me to stay in and just continue from there. But I had reached kind of that tipping point. Around 10 years, you get that tipping point to where, am I going to stay? Am I going to go? Well, I hadn't reached 10 years yet. And I was like, I really want to, since I'd missed Desert Storm, I wanted to go on a big military adventure. So the Marine Corps has what they call a Marine Expeditionary Unit, a MEU. So there's a Med cruise and a Pacific cruise. So there's two on each side of the planet all year, every day. And I went to my readiness and stuff like that, and like, send me on a MEU and I'll reenlist right now. I'll sign up for another 4 right now. Send me on a MEU. I'll go on an adventure. And I told him I missed Desert Storm because I got stuck on rear D. And he's like, well, it's been real challenging and your MOS is short. So we need you to stick around and keep training these guys and blah, 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 blah. No, I really want to go do something. And he's like, well, I just can't. They made it all the way up to the CO of our group, which I guess is battalion in the Army. And even it came back down. They're like, yeah, we're really just shorthanded. We can't send them out. So I got a little bitter about that. So I left active duty. Like, well, I've given you 8 years. You can't give me this. I'm leaving. But again, I was younger and had a little fire for adventure. So that was my way of saying, okay, well, fine, I'm leaving. In hindsight, I could have gone into the reserves. I could have reenlisted and just stayed active and done it then. But something else that started when I was young, I was a huge racing fan.
I was going to ask.
Yeah, huge racing fan. And my wife and I, we had a daughter, and she was still young, still little. And I was like, either I start something new now or I stick around and keep doing this. And that's, well, we're going to start something new. So I left active duty and we stayed in North Carolina because my parents had moved from West Virginia to North Carolina. So we stayed near family, and I had a few jobs, no career per se. I was a cable installer, cable TV guy. I worked at the YMCA part-time, so I had a couple jobs at the same time. And my wife was a HR professional, and she got a job in Charlotte, North Carolina. So we left our house and we're going house hunting in Charlotte. And I had actually enrolled in film school. I was going to go work in film. That was my next adventure because I enjoyed film, and it's a big industry, and you hear about, oh, this movie made millions of dollars. I said, well, I could be like one of those guys, setting up lights or stuff like that. I'm not going to be a director or anything like that, but I could work in the film industry. So I stopped by the community college on the way down because I had already started in Winston-Salem at film school. I said, well, if we're going to live in Charlotte, I'm going to check out the school here. I walked in the front door, and they had a rack of their programs, industrial, welding, political science, criminology, all this stuff. And about the 4th rack down, motorsports, technology, and management. So I grabbed that immediately because I'm a huge racing guy. And I grabbed that and never looked back.
I didn't even know that was like a class that was offered.
That school, Rowan Cabarrus Community College in Concord, was the first school in America with an accredited degree in motorsports.
Wow, because I thought, I seriously figured you either had to be related or impress somebody enough with your maintenance skills to get into that, because pit crews are huge. I mean, it's and if anybody that watches racing at all, the speed and the technical skill to swap out those tires or swap out an engine during a race is phenomenal. I mean, so you've been doing that for how many years?
Well, again, I found out about the program, took my GI Bill and signed up immediately. I knew a lot about racing, about the industry. some of the background stuff. But the college program really opened my eyes to how deep it really goes. Um, it's such an integrated, I call it an industry, because once you get from your Friday night, Saturday night local thing, where you got a family race team and they're working full time, they're also racing. Well, once you get to a professional level, it becomes a fully integrated business, with marketing, with logistics, supply issues, skilled labor, building the cars, skilled people to do marketing and logistics. The administration of a race team was beyond what I had realized. Um, but the program was great. Um, I got my 2-year degree in a year and a half because I went to school constantly. I took extra classes. Um, I volunteered for different programs. Um, but the big breakout in that was part of the program, you had to do an internship somewhere in the racing industry. They didn't care whether you were parking cars at the Charlotte Speedway, helping the hospitality folks in the corporate hospitality tents, or I was lucky enough, because I'm technically minded, I was lucky enough to score an internship with a truck team, NASCAR truck team.
My older brother is going to be watching this,
Yeah.
and he's going to be like, "So, where's the ticket?" No,
Yeah.
like that's outstanding.
Yeah, and that was the year 2000. I'd started with the truck team prior to the 2000 season. I was an intern, so I was doing everything. I was sweeping floors, I was washing trucks, I was sorting parts, I was helping the fabrication department put the body panels and supports in the trucks themselves. I helped the car chief. There's different levels of mechanics. So you get general mechanics, and they do everything. Fabricators, they build things. Your car chief is responsible for the mechanical assembly and preparation of the vehicle. Your crew chief manages all those people. The crew chief answers to the team manager, and the team manager answers to the owner. But I got in pretty good because I don't like to sit around. If I'm going to show up, I'm working, I'm doing something. So I made my presence known, and they started taking me on the road. I helped out with pit crew. I was a jackman one time. Mainly, they redesigned the systems. We used to have what they call a catch can man. They had the gas man. There's a big guy who could pick up the gas can and plug it. And then there was a guy like me who would have a can that opened up the vent for the fuel system, so the fuel could go in and the air could vent out. That was my job. I was the vent guy.
No, how did it pay, or did it pay? Well, not the.
It
I assume
initially,
the internship.
yeah, initially the internship was show up and get college credit. They did eventually offer me a job. I was making $400. No, it wasn't that much. It was like $325 a week. Enough to feed me and put gas in the car. But it got me in the industry. I was on the team. You can look it up on YouTube. The 2000 NASCAR truck race, when they call it the worst wreck in NASCAR history. Jeffrey Bodine, towards the end of the race, his truck blew a tire coming down the front of Daytona Speedway. And as soon as it blew a tire, it spun. And of course, at speedways, they take off because of the aerodynamics. But he got hit by 4 or 5 other trucks, and the engine got ripped out of the truck. That happened right in front of me. It unfolded right in front of my eyes. And this is my first professional race as a mechanic. All this is happening. Our team wasn't the fastest. We realized that, but we had a fuel pump issue, so our truck was literally on pit road getting worked on when that happened. But the excitement and everything, it kind of locked me in. My first ever race and all this stuff. That historic wreck happened. A little bit later, we went to a few more races, and the team owner was not the best businessman. So they had some financial issues and some other things going on. And at this point, I was kind of smart enough to read the writing on the wall. That was not the place for me. I needed to find somewhere stable because, with a situation like that, you don't know if you're going to have a job next month, I think. But through the college.
Well, no, hold on one second. No. Race car enthusiasts. What? How long is that season? Like, is it how long? Is it all year round, or do you have months of?
Well, the race teams open year round. Even in the postseason, you've got to reset all your equipment, rebuild because NASCAR makes rule changes. You have to change all your vehicles to the new rule set. They do testing. Have to prep for the new season. So the season usually runs from February to November, somewhere in that realm. I think the current NASCAR schedule is 36 races, 38 races with special events. So they run from February, like I said, to November.
Everybody gets to go home for Christmas and reset.
Yeah. Usually a downtime for once Thanksgiving hits, the season's wrapping up, and then you have your off season where the transporters get rebuilt, all the new marketing folks come in and try to make sponsorship connections for the following year, things like that. All the race vehicles get gone through, engines get reset, new rules have to be built into the vehicles, things like that. It's year round.
So now you're doing all this. At what point? How did the Guard find you, or when did you find the Guard?
It's like I said, there was a big gap. I left the race team, and through the college, they have connections throughout the industry. So one of the shock absorber companies, Bilstein, they actually asked the director of the college, hey, you got anybody? We're hiring people. We're building this motorsports office. And they're like, yeah, we'll send Mike your way. I went up there and got a job instantly. And I was at Bilstein for almost 12 years.
Man.
Yeah, so from
right place, right time, and right work ethic.
So it's the summer of 2001, I started at Bilstein, and of course 9/11 happened, and that really started rolling. And a couple years after that, I was like, you know what, I need to do my part again. So I went to a prior service recruiter and the Marine Corps, since that's what I was familiar with. I was like, I need to get back in the fight. So what do I got to do? He's like, well, let's get all your paperwork and let's get everything signed up. Let's get you through MEPS. And I was like, well, what? My previous MOS had changed a little bit, so I'd have to go back to school anyway. I was like, well, I want to get in aviation. So we found a attack helicopter squadron, a reserve unit out of Atlanta. And I was like, oh, I'm going to work on Hueys and Cobras. This is going to be awesome. Went down. It was challenging back then because everything was starting to get digital, but it wasn't digital yet. So all of my records were on microfiche in Fort Leavenworth.
Oh.
So that turned out to be the reason I didn't get back in the Marine Reserves. It was probably a 6-7 month process. I went down, met the unit, met the sergeant major, met the XO, and they're like, "We'd love to have you. We look forward to having you." And they're all calling me Sergeant Cummings, even though I hadn't officially re-enlisted yet. So I was getting then motivated again. Got my PT back. I was working out and everything. Got through MEPS, and the unit was disbanded.
Oh no!
The aircraft were absorbed into active duty. The current members were given the option to go active duty or get an early release from their contract. And here I am, not re-enlisted yet, trying to get into the unit, and they're just like, "Thanks for your effort. Can't help you." So that kind of hit hard. So again, I refocused on my racing career. I stayed at the shock absorber company. Actually worked my way up to another NASCAR team where I became the shock specialist. I was at Richard Childress Racing for a little less, probably 7-8 months. I worked with Kevin Harvick and Clint Boyer and some other drivers they had brought in for tryouts. And I was working on the race team. I wasn't on a pit crew, but I was building shock absorbers for all the race cars. One thing or another, that didn't work out. So Bill Stein was nice enough to take me back. I went back to Bill Stein, and I was there until we moved to Washington in 2012.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now you're unique in a lot of the folks that I've had on here because you were already serving, but you had your break during 9/11.
Yeah.
Most of the folks we were serving in some form or capacity during 9/11.
Yeah.
And I always ask, where were you and what was going through your mind that day?
Yeah, 9/11. I was just a few months into working at Bill Stein, and we were at work. We work at 7 to 4 every day, and we were at work and listening to the radio, and it came over the radio. There's been a plane crash in New York City, and in mere moments there was another plane crash. So my boss is like, "Hey, let's go find a TV." We went to my buddy's house and watched everything unfold on TV that day. Wow. So I remember it clear as a bell. You say it was shortly after that is when the whole Marine Corps Reserve thing went down. But yeah, it was something you never forget. Yeah.
So now life's going fairly good. You're doing race crew. Get me to the point of where did you seek out the Guard, or did they?
Yes. So my wife's a writer, and we had come out here in 2011 on our anniversary for a little vacation. This is the only corner of America we hadn't looked at. So in 2011, we came out and did a whole 3-week tour out the Forks, because back then, vampires were a thing.
I've been pulled on that trip many times by a wife who's read all those books. Yep. So yes, I know.
So we did all that. We toured everything from Salem to Bellingham, looked at all the stuff, did the Space Needle, super tourists, right? We were 12-hour days just burning through gas, looking at all the sites, seeing everything. And we're on the plane ride back, and my oldest was graduating high school. My wife said, when she graduates, we're moving out here. Okay, you're the boss. I was still at Bill Stein, but again, she was a writer, and she had just, I guess you call it breakout. She had her breakout. Her books were doing really well on Amazon. Well, Amazon's headquartered in Seattle.
Wow.
So she's like, we're going to move up there, and I'm going to go make mine. Because she had like a sales rep that works at Amazon. She said, I'm going to go make really good friends with the sales rep, and we're going to start living off my books. And I was like, okay, fine. We moved out here in, like I said, the summer of 2012, and she was doing really well. We moved to Bainbridge, and I was renovating the house. I still had the racing itch, so I kind of contacted the Dirt Fish Rally out in Snoqualmie. Hey, you guys got any part-time help? Anything you need help with? I'm like, sure, come on out. So I worked at Dirt Fish for about 6 months, putting race cars together and just general mechanical stuff, helping them out, sweeping floors, taking trash out. But that required a ferry ride, get through Seattle, out I-90, and it was quite an endeavor. So it didn't really work out. But again, the book sales were going really good. We had started to renovate our house. It was looking really nice on Bainbridge, and we love Bainbridge. And then my wife's like, it'd be great if, we both kind of had a good steady thing going on. Won't you? Because I was riding my motorcycle to California. I was, finishing up the renovations. I was like in her hair. I guess she wanted to get me out of her hair. So you need to go out and do something. Yeah.
I got that same talk after I left the guard and
Yeah.
was
Well, this is
yeah.
before, so I was in her hair too much. At least that's what I think. Probably not the story, but since I was in the Marine Corps and I wanted to get back into aviation, I actually contacted the Navy Reserves first.
Oh,
Up here in Bremerton. First stop is, hey, this is where I came from. I kind of want to go, because Whidbey Islands, all the F-18s and everything. I've talked to them on radio for hundreds of hours and done air intercepts and that, but I want to get into making them fly and get attached to a carrier. And teenage me wanted to go work on Top Gun, all this stuff. And I'm like, well, what's your aviation maintenance background? I said, well, I worked on radars. Like, unless you have a rating that's aviation maintenance, we can't get you back in. Oh, I was like, well, okay. I wasn't heartbroken. And then right next door, actually, right next door was the Army National Guard, but I didn't walk in the office. I went home, looked them up online, because at this point I know you had to have a prior service recruiter and this and the other. And I found the prior service guy, and gave him a call. And they're like, well, what do you want to do? Well, I want to work in aviation. Yeah, we've got all kinds of aviation. What do you want to do? It was kind of refreshing, actually, because the door just opened. Like, what do you want to do? Do you want to cook food? Do you want to work on trucks?
You also had that cool insight of already having been served in the military.
Yeah.
I think that was one of those things when I came in. There was really only one position I wanted to go for, and it was originally to be an MP, but there were no bonuses, and they were pretty stacked.
Mm-hmm.
They had a very big wait list, and fuel kind of came open as a
Yeah.
well, hey, there's an armory 10 minutes from where you live, and we have an $8,000 sign-on bonus. I was like, well, I could try that, but hindsight was like, didn't know that they had aviation fueling. It didn't realize how big the aviation footprint was in the Army or the Guard. So you kind of had a good, you already had that focus looking for it. What helped you pick your MOS? What made you decide?
Well, we got some family history with Army aviation. My cousin, back in West Virginia, was a M113 crewman when he enlisted in the West Virginia Guard back in the 80s. He's slightly older than me. I mean, slightly, like 3 years. Sort of like my older brother's time frame. So he joined the West Virginia Guard as an armor transport crewman and went the Green to Gold program. Got his degree, became an officer, and went to helicopter flight school. He was a Huey pilot, transitioned to Blackhawks, and throughout his career, he made it to lieutenant colonel, was a fixed wing pilot. Now he flies air ambulances up in West Virginia. He's retired. So I kind of had the aviation itch, and that's where I got the idea. And when I was talking to Travis Bassett, my recruiter, I was like, hey, I want to work on aviation. And he's like, okay, cool. You want to do Chinooks or Blackhawks, or what are you thinking? I was like, I want to be a Blackhawk guy. It'd be awesome. He's like, okay. It was that easy.
Wow.
Yeah, I had all those challenges
Wow.
with the Marine Reserves. It was just bad timing. The Navy flat out said, if you don't have an aviation maintenance career already, we can't put you back in it. But the Army Guard was like, whatever you want, here it is. You can. There's all these jobs. Which one do you want?
Now, did you think, because one of the things I warn the younger ones when they're picking out an MOS is like, you get a lot of folks like, hey, I just want to be infantry, or I just want to shoot big guns, and for some folks, it's kind of that nice side hobby that they get to serve their country and blow stuff up. But I also I would try to guide folks to like, okay, are you going to have something on the civilian side you can use this for? Did you have that going through your mind at all when you were looking at it?
A little bit. But my philosophy was it has to be something that is going to match with my personal interests, with my, um, I don't want to say ambition, my goals. Um, what do I want to get out of it? Um, I mean, I could have done, Seaburn or anything, but I wanted to get something that was, um, I guess, more integrated, that would give me a wider footprint as far as interacting with more folks and all this other stuff. So I wanted something that would fill that mechanical itch, get me in front of a wider range of folks. Because in aviation, you touch with other agencies, with other services. Sorry, I got the frog in the throat.
It's all good. I won't be editing that out, by the
Yeah.
way, so be prepared.
Yeah. But it gets you in front of other agencies, other services, and probably the most appealing thing for me, the National Guard, it connects you with the community. The Army Reserve, you are a national asset, but you belong to the Army. The National Guard is part of the community. It's part of the state where you live, and it gives you that connection. Being a Southern person myself, community and things like that are really kind of integral to our lives. So to be able to interact with the community, support their efforts, and have them support us directly is kind of gives you that real connection to the community. So that was a big draw for the National Guard for me, no matter what job I had.
When you came in, did you realize that there were going to be so many deployments and so many natural disasters that you would be called to?
Well, it was about on par, if not a little slower than what I thought it was going to be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so in 2013, I went back through MEPS, took the ASFAB, did all that stuff, and signed my MOS 15 Tango, and had my first drill, and got the drill letter, the email, and I showed up to the hangar. I didn't really have a good handoff, Travis. It's your fault. I didn't have a good handoff as to where I was going. So I show up to the hangar having no Army uniforms, no nothing. I just had some paperwork that said I'm now in the Army National Guard, attached to 168. And this is what my MOS is going to be. I've never touched a Blackhawk in my life. I walk in the hangar and I'm just kind of looking around, and I see a bunch of guys sitting at a table getting ready for their morning meeting. Hey, this is my first day in the Guard. I'm not sure exactly where I'm supposed to go. You guys help me out? And Cody Parmenter was sitting there, and he said, "Yeah, what's your job?" So I'm going to be a 15 Tango Blackhawk mechanic. He's like, "Oh, you're in the right place. This is Delta Company. We do maintenance for Blackhawks." I'm like, okay, I guess I'm in the right place. So I go about my day, introduce myself to Sergeant First Class Johnson, the platoon sergeant. Hey, I'm just joined. I don't know where to go. What do I do with my hands? He's like, okay, yeah, you're probably with us. Well, 3 drills later, I start getting phone calls why I'm AWOL. I wasn't attached to Delta Company. I was attached to Charlie 140th, the flight company. My recruiters, Travis, put me in a slot. And that slot happened to be in the flight company. I'd never touched a Blackhawk, and much less been able to crew it. So once that got figured out, they made sure I was in Delta Company until I got an MOS queued. Then I could board for a flight company later on. But a little bit of hiccups and speed bumps when I first got into Guard, but it worked out.
Right on.
Yeah.
Then what was your Because for me, it was always an honor to serve during any of the floods or fires,
Yeah.
that type of situation.
Yeah.
How how did you feel about that? Because you, especially on the medical side, you guys did a lot.
Well, yeah. Right when I enlisted is when the Oso landslide happened, and I was aware. Again, hadn't been AIT. I was just a new soldier, and they dropped me a rank. So I wasn't a sergeant. I was a specialist. They dropped me a rank, but I wasn't MOSQ'd. Um, I was doing PMCSs through the manual every drill and doing KP because I couldn't work on the aircraft. I wasn't qualified yet. But I knew that they had the OSO response, and I could see the crews training and going on their flights. And I was learning as much as I could on the hangar floor through the routine maintenance that Delta Company does. My first annual training, I was selected to be Op 4 out in one of the training areas. So that was cool. Sergeant Jackson, hindsight, he handpicked everybody. So we had a guy who was on a year try the guard drill. He's a former Ranger, Afghanistan veteran, and they put this guy on Op 4 with an old Marine and actually two former Marines and a brand new specialist, Caleb Asink. It was his first AT as well. So they had all these, Marines and Army Ranger, and they had a brand new specialist.
That's awesome.
So we were Op 4 out in the training area for a week. But later that year, I went to AIT at Fort Eustis, and I'm gonna pat myself on the back. I finished top of my class, but since I was prior service, I couldn't get the Distinguished Graduate Award. That's kind of the policy they have. They reserve that for the AIT kids to kind of keep them motivated. But I did finish with the highest score in my class. Got back to the hangar, and it was probably 3 months later that I boarded for flight and got selected for medevac. But being able to respond to wildfires, that was kind of my biggest initial community connection. So being able to actually train up, and during all of it, you're like, yeah, this is going to make a difference. This is going to make an impact. It kind of keeps you motivated, really.
I think meeting the community members too,
Yeah.
when you're there, there's just something there. There's nothing like that, because they're looking at you in that uniform and they're like, hey, thanks for saving my home, or thanks for trying to save my home,
Yeah,
or thanks
yeah.
for it's not why we do it, but at the same time it is.
Mhm.
It's like everything about
Yeah.
just trying to save your community is a big piece of what the Guard does.
Yeah.
And I just those are those things that I every time I have heard you all getting activated for a fire this last 5 years, I'm just like watching every little news thing I can and
Yeah.
see if you all are on there, how it's going.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize, just in the regular civilian community, there is a ton of effort that goes in just to get that helicopter on site. I mean, you have to do all the maintenance planning. You can't just throw a helicopter out there. It has to have a certain number of hours. It has to have all the inspections completed, the air crew training mix. Do you have enough qualified personnel to do that? And you have to back plan that. So every spring, the Guard actually plans training for the air crews to be prepared in case we do get called up. So you're talking hundreds of hours of maintenance and flight training, and the administrative posture. All the records have to be updated. The pay statuses have to be planned. The budgets have to be set for that every year. But again, the driving factor is we want to make that impact. We want to be able to help.
Well, there's the other piece with that with aviation is that I'll say it, the pucker factor of, if I gave bad fuel to a paladin or a howitzer, big deal. It ends up on the road, and they have to tow it, fix it, clean the filter, whatever. You get bad fuel on a bird, it goes down. If you don't do the right repairs on it, you leave tools where they shouldn't be. They go down. And so it's, as a crew member, what was your scariest time, or did you have a scary time in one of your birds?
I mean, aviation in general is dangerous, but it's all mitigated through proper maintenance, through proper training, through proper planning. It's a total team effort. Like you said, the fuel is vital. If the shops aren't run correctly, then there's no way that maintenance can be done correctly. And if maintenance isn't done correctly, the crews aren't going to fly. They're not going to get trained correctly. If the training's not completed correctly, they won't be able to execute any of the missions properly. So it starts when you walk in the gate. From the moment you walk in the gate, especially in aviation. If every little thing isn't done correctly, then some people use Swiss cheese model. I use kind of the analogy that it's a skyscraper that's built on a toothpick. If that toothpick wasn't in place properly, you pull the toothpick, the whole thing's going to collapse.
I always appreciated the teamwork of the crews, both the Blackhawks and the Chinooks, and I love opportunities to help, bringing them out of the hangar, just making sure that the blades don't get hit.
Oh yeah.
It was, and correct me, but like some of those blades are what, 100,000 a piece.
Yeah, they're triple that.
Yeah.
We have two models. We have the Lima model and the Mike model. The Lima model is a little more affordable. They're like 200,000.
Man.
The Mike model is like 300,000 per blade.
So when you see that propeller going, and it's each of those blades are that, a couple $100,000 a piece, and that was the biggest thing with our vehicles when we were pulling up to them, just explaining to the new soldiers, it's like you have to be this far away. Because if especially if they're still spinning, or you're doing hot refuel, it's like the danger of what it's going to do to you and do to that piece of equipment is catastrophic. I mean, it's there's very few people who get away unscathed when you have a blade strike.
Yeah, blades are undefeated. That's what we say. But that kind of brings me to something I really want to convey, that these soldiers lose sight sometimes. It's like, oh, I'm going to work. I'm going to go drive the truck out to the aircraft, or the air crews. Oh, I've got a training flight. I'm going to be home late tonight. What they don't realize is, what is it? 1% of Americans serve.
2%. But aviation, it's an even smaller
percentage.
Yeah,
so I was going to say, aviation is even a tinier percentage of that. And just the level that everyone in that building in the Ark performs, I think they lose sight of how excellent actually every one of them are. Because it is an effort that is immeasurable to the average citizen. And these folks come in and perform at levels. I mean, I'm, again, coming from a professionally trained racing background, where performance is the goal, period. The level that these soldiers perform at drill, at AT, during training exercises, off to schools, I think they kind of lose sight that they're doing something really special, and that their efforts, we haven't had any high level accidents in decades. And it is in no small part due to the professional, excellent work ethic of every one of those soldiers, from top to bottom, whether this is their first drill or they've been there for 20 years. Those folks really are doing something special. And now that I'm sort of on my exit route, it's kind of put it in perspective of how neat this job really was.
Do you, because we're going to get into the subject of leadership, did you, um, going to ask you, what are you a good leader? Do you teach the next generation the things to look for, those soldiers that were, because it gets, I know sometimes it can be old hat of like, oh hey, we got to have a walkthrough. We've got to do, we've got to do a FOD walk on the tarmac. All these things. You don't realize what just one chunk of metal in the wrong place at the wrong time can do.
Paperclip.
Paperclip.
Yeah.
Short out a system. I mean, it's I've been there when I remember when one of the Chinooks had and I apologize, cannot think of the name of the failure, but they had to land in a pasture, and it took several days to get it. Well, actually, it took longer because the civilian uh, fueler had a heart attack and ran into it while they were coming up to fuel it. But there's a lot of steps that you've got to be a lot of scenarios you have to be ready for when something like that happens. But it's also so different from a fixed wing where, hey, sometimes they can pun wing it, they can coast or get a pretty set pattern to get down, where on the helicopter you you have thousands of pieces that are moving against each other.
It's kind of like a bumblebee. It ain't supposed to fly.
It's not
But it
supposed to
does.
fly. It
We
does.
beat the air into submission.
But it's you got these young ones coming up. Every generation says, "Oh, these soldiers now. I don't know how this army's going to make it, or I don't know how this group's going to." How do you feel about the new group of soldiers replacing you, taking your place, and taking the place of the people that you've already seen leave?
Yeah. It can be challenging, but you have to remember these folks took it upon themselves. This is all volunteer. Um, but going back to my college days, when I graduated, one of the instructors had moved on, and um, the head of the department, who became my mentor and a close personal friend, asked me to teach the class. So the night class is what I covered in college, and that's where I learned that you can give back, you can pass things on, but you're also responsible because they put that trust in you because you don't want to disappoint them. So it kind of rolled into my personality from that point that um, the new soldiers coming in, they're much like us. They're on an adventure. They want to take it all in and do all this. But there has to be that personal connection. Um, there are times where you have to just follow orders and do what you're told, but you have to remind them that there's a reason for that. They're not going to give you the whole story. We don't have all day and all week to explain it to you, but you have to do this because it's part of the scenario. It's part of the whole effort coming through. So you have to remind them that it is a team effort. It is everyone pulling in the same direction. And it's those little things, even though you're not given the whole story, you're not given the reason why. There is a reason why, and there is a story. We don't have time to explain it to you right now. So you want to make them as good of a whatever they are as possible, because those moments will come when they're like, oh, that's why they told me to double check the chocks. Oh, that's why we have to make sure the ground is secure before we start doing this. The lights will come on as they move forward, but you have to get them in a mindset to what they're doing is important. Even though they're not told the whole story, there's a reason why they're doing it that way. And again, reinstill them that it will come in time. Even though they have some experience, it will come in time that you'll get a better understanding as you move ahead, move forward, move up in positions and things like that. But kind of keep it in perspective. That's kind of my philosophy, is to keep everything in perspective for them, because your community needs you, the Guard needs you, and um,
Your family,
your family needs you.
back.
Yeah, but it's part of the responsibility of wearing a uniform is you have to do it right with some integrity and honor, and play to your strengths. You know, not everybody's made for command. Some people are made for technical proficiency. Some people are made to crawl around in the dirt and assault positions. But
We need them all.
yeah,
We need them all.
everything, like I said, everyone pull in the same direction, and absolutely, there's no way you can't be successful doing that.
How many deployments did you end up on with the Guard?
With the Guard, officially just Kosovo.
Kosovo.
It was just shy of a year total, with pre-mob, going in country for 9 months, and then demob. We left on my wife's birthday in August of 2000. Left on her birthday. Happy birthday! I'm leaving. And we left country June of the next year on my birthday. Ironically enough.
Happy birthday to you. Yeah, that's
we're leaving on my birthday. And then, of course, demob. So from August 2020 to July of 21 was our mobilization or deployment. Yeah.
How did your wife feel about that? Knowing, like, did she think that was a possibility, or was she?
Yeah, she was in the Marine Corps.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's where we met.
I did not. Boy,
Let's
sorry.
throw it back.
I'm slacking. I'm really slacking in the progression here, but
yeah, that's where we met. I was in the operations section at my first duty station, and she was in the back shops. She was in the communication section. She worked on radios.
wow.
Yeah,
So was she disappointed when you went Guard, or was she
no,
like?
not at all. Not at all. No. We both.
Like, this is a Marine family. What
yeah.
are you thinking? What do you?
Well, that's the thing. We're both the first Marines in either of our families, so we're always going to have that pride. It's kind of, again, like I said, my life has been so directional in so many different directions. But
You didn't have a boring life. That's, I mean, do
yeah,
you think about that sometimes?
yeah,
Like,
for sure.
hey,
And had I not done that, when I reenlisted in the Guard, I didn't have to do basic again. Didn't have to do that. Like I say, I just showed up to drill with no uniforms, in some exercise clothes, because they said we're going to do PT, but we didn't do PT that day. So yeah, it's I don't know, I kind of personal point of pride that I've been an NCO in 2 different services. So that was awesome. Zero regrets about finishing up my career in the Guard. Some of the most excellent people you come across.
I was gonna get back to leadership. I asked about yours. Did you have you feel like you had good leadership?
I think so, for sure. There's ups and downs. Every personalities roll into it, like any other profession. You have ambitious people. You have people that want to not rock the boat. You have a couple of absentee people sometimes, unfortunately, but overall, I don't think I would change a single thing.
Who would you give credit for mentoring, showing you the ropes, and getting you on the right path, especially with aviation?
Yeah, aircrew is something that maintainers, I want to say, should aspire to, because we're still just specialists, just sergeants, but aircrew is just a different level of commitment. We're not any better than anybody else. That's a thing. When I was coming up from Delta Company, like, oh, there's the aircrew. Look at those guys. They have special uniforms and patches. they're just soldiers like everybody else, but they've made a little extra effort to actually be a crewman or crew person. 2025.
Yeah.
So they've made a little extra effort to be on the crew. With that comes a responsibility for mechanics. I can't speak to the pilot side. Um, I've never been a pilot, but for the mechanics, uh, instead of being part of a Delta company maintenance platoon where you're given a task to complete, you complete it excellent, get the aircraft back online, and do all the follow-ons at your, that's the excellence in your job, is to make sure that aircraft is completed correctly. There's clearing of faults and making sure everything's good to go. The air crew relies on Delta Company to make sure those aircraft are prepared and ready to go. The air crew operate the aircraft, but the mechanics, the crew chief in the back, they have two responsibilities. First one is safety. So there's a little more goes into that because the blades are turning, the engines are on, and there's 360 gallons of fuel in that thing. So there's a lot of safety involved, especially when you lift off the ground. Make sure nobody falls out. A lot of what we do is doors open because the military uses that helicopter on so many different missions, from fire buckets to rescue hoist training. Greatest joy in my life, right, by the way, is hoist training. And I try to remind people that everything we do in the daytime, we do at night, except fire buckets. So
if you haven't been lifted up in a litter by a helicopter, you just haven't been living life. That's it.
yeah, rescue hoist was something that when I did it the first time, it just kind of blew my mind, and I've embraced it fully. But the air crews are no different than any other soldier, but they've made a little more commitment because they have to do extra training. There's evaluations. There's so many evaluations. You have to do an annual evaluation of all of your skills. Then there's mission evaluations, NVGs, CBurn, hoist operators get evaluated. The assault company does gunnery. I've never been in an assault company. I've never touched a fully functional 240 machine gun in my life, ever.
Wow.
And I've been in the Guard 12 years.
Wow.
I've never touched one. But I've been medevac my whole time. We're unarmed and unafraid. So, but they have to get evaluated. They do gunnery every year. They just completed it, this annual training. But air crews, they're just the same as everyone else. It's just they've made a little more commitment to go through all of that training, evaluations, and they're just in the seat. But it's no different than a fueler or our supply specialists. None of what we do would happen if it wasn't for the S1 department making sure everyone's getting their credits and their benefits and their pay. The supply people absolutely could not do what we do without supply people.
That's a fact.
That is like a cornerstone. You can't do anything without military equipment.
That was one of those things that impressed me when I did come to aviation from field artillery, was how quick certain things we got on the aviation side compared to when we were field artillery. Yeah. And I don't think it was anything that was wrong necessarily with field artillery, but they especially all the flight units, they have to be at a certain operating level, because just one of those things folks may not know, even in the Guard, that your aviation units have to be ready to deploy within, I may get this part wrong, but within like a 90-day period. They're always, they're almost at that same level of with the special forces, in the sense that aviation units are a very important asset, and they have to be able to have, it's a certain amount of the birds have to be operational at all times. I remember before the last deployment, you guys were my last deployment, which was like 2015. You guys were knocking it out of the park with services and everything else. You were like over 80% of the aircraft were usable, functioning, flight hours, NVG, all these checklists that you have to follow.
Yeah.
It was just unreal when I saw it compared to active duty units and across the rest of the U.S. There were so many units that were at 50% or lower, and so that's a big testimony, I think, to the Guard of just how well they were maintaining their aircraft and keeping it going.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, the aircraft are an asset, just like a Striker is an asset. LMTV, Humvee, doesn't matter. They're assets that have missions that they're intended to go on. And if an aircraft can't be maintained, it is a very expensive asset that is not doing a thing. During our Kosovo deployment, we're medevac, of course, so we have to have, and we were actually on duty for those 9 months. We call it first up, second up, and then you're off, but you're on that rotation. We went from 24 to 48 because every 24 hours it seemed like we were just running back and forth. So let's do 48. So we did 48 hours on first up, 48 hours on second up, and then 48 hours on off duty for resets. But during that time frame, the first up aircraft has to be ready within 15 minutes, like in the air, has to be in the air, flying for whatever mission comes up. At the end of deployment, we had a 93% OR rate.
wow.
Would have been a little higher, except for a couple of small hiccups that occurred, but 93% is pretty good.
How did that feel being in an active deployed status, knowing that you were running that high?
Yeah, it wasn't a hostile environment. Kosovo is officially in a conflict with Serbia, but the presence of all the UN people, and or was it UN or NATO?
Good question.
NATO, I think it's NATO. Anyway, the presence of those folks from other countries, and that was really awesome, getting to work with other countries, Croatia, Hungary, Poland, German, Italian, Turkey. It's a whole international community that's there, and we got to go on training missions with them, and of course trade patches and take pictures and shake hands, and that's probably the fun part of it.
I think I think it's always like a mind-opening experience when you get to work with other militaries. I always missed out on the great trips, like the Thailand or the Korean ones. I never made it on those ones, but I remember working with the Japanese Army and working with in Kuwait, working when the actually Russian Army coming through, and New Zealand, and some of the it was just, it's impressive to take notes, noticing the difference of equipment, the way that they operate, the way that they function as a group. It's a good it's definitely good memories.
Yeah,
working with others.
Even my year in Japan, in Okinawa, we didn't work with international partners.
Oh wow.
We worked with Marines or Air Force or Navy, but American assets. We never worked with international partners. One of, because I always kind of had that, like everybody else does, I want to go work with some cool international partners. I always had that itch to go kind of figure that out and have fun. Right before I left active duty in the Marine Corps, I was at Cherry Point, North Carolina. I lived on base, my wife and I and our daughter, but they had this big international exercise where a bunch of British troops were going to come, and for some reason they set up a tent city adjacent to the airfield at Cherry Point, and they're going to be there for like 2 months, and they're going to do Harrier training and all their operational stuff. Back then I didn't know about flight ops and all that, but it was a whole integration thing with the Marine Corps and the Navy, and it just so happened their tent city was between my house and my work. So every day I drove by, and there'd be like 2 or 3 guys standing next to the road Well, after 3 or 4 days of that, I stopped. What are you guys doing? And in full British accent. Yeah, we're just looking to get a ride back to the base or back to the PX, and yes, I will hop in.
Right on.
So for the next week and a half, I was like Uber before there was Uber. I would stop every day and pick up British guys and take them to the PX and McDonald's and go get haircuts. And one weekend, I actually took them to the beach because Cherry Point's on the coast of North Carolina, and took them down to the beach, dropped them off at this dance club, and they had fun. And of course, I was driving, so I wasn't going to indulge. But I actually made a couple of trips that weekend, and I was like, when do you guys want to be picked up, and when do you want to be dropped off? It was super fun.
Did you stay in contact with them? Did you?
Not really, not really. It was just kind of spur of the moment, and just people connecting with people and soldiers connecting with soldiers, and we would have conversations in the car. What do you guys do? What's your PT test like? How do you do uniforms? You Marines got sharp uniforms. Blah, blah, blah.
I was watching a clip where they were kind of making fun of us for, they go, oh, the Americans and their medals, they say they get a medal for everything when they do something. They and it wasn't, medals weren't a big thing to them.
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing, this was the early 90s. No. Yeah, this was 93, 94, and I still had my first car. It was a Nissan Sentra. No, I had my second car. It was a Suzuki Sidekick, but it was a 5-speed manual. They were blown away that I drove a manual car. We thought every car in America was automatic. And I'm just shifting the gears, and I'm a racing guy, so it's a little more smooth, and I'm downshifting in corners, and I overheard these guys in the back, oh, he drives it quite proper.
That's awesome.
So just those little cultural things where, oh, I didn't think Americans drove manual cars. Yeah, we have a choice. We can whatever we want.
Some of us used to until we got a new hip, and that was the first. Those are some of the first things to go. Was it is.
Yeah, but those interactions is really kind of you don't think about it, but it kind of means a lot.
Now, you and your bride are kind of like mine, and we're you're avid travelers. Like you get around. What are there trips in place or in mind when last day comes, or you?
We have a loose plan, but the closer it gets, the more challenging it's going to be. Again, she's a writer, so she has conventions that she can go to, and they do autograph sessions, they do book reviews, and writers groups get together and talk about writing techniques. And anyway, it's a whole convention thing. I don't do that, but I attend as her assistant. And
do you get to carry the books?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Really? I carried 70 books to England through customs, and they didn't even check them.
Wow.
But those trips are a certain percentage of a tax write-off. So I'm not saying we take advantage of it, but it is part of our trips.
But those are things to keep in mind when you can do things as a business.
Yeah.
That's we're I think a lot of soldiers miss opportunities to travel that either have jobs or side jobs and don't think about some of those things that they can do to, like, hey, we can actually do this trip and use part of it as a tax write-off, use some of our military benefits for like Space A. I know I feel awful. I never used it the whole time I was in.
We used it once.
And it was
we went to San Diego from the naval base.
Oh, wow.
We were in the back of a Navy. It looked like a commercial plane, but it said U.S. Navy on it. They use it for administrative stuff all around the country. But Space A it's a little challenging because if you're not on orders, you're not priority. But if you check some of their websites, some of their online stuff, they'll tell you seats available and people that are going. Usually there's more seats than people. So we jumped on a flight. It's not traditional like SeaTac, but If it says it's departing Whidbey at 10 p.m., it may be midnight or 1 before you depart, or it might be earlier in the day or whatever. But um, totally free. We flew to Coronado, got a rental car, did a whole weekend in San Diego, and flew back on the Navy, totally free.
Outstanding.
Yeah, there's so many benefits that just being a Guard member. That's why I say it's the best kept secret in the military is to join the Guard, because you can still do civilian stuff and just part-time Guard, or you can dive in and be a tech. There's lots of positions available, but with all of that comes a ton of benefits. My wife's from Florida, so she grew up there, and it's kind of how she snagged me. She took me to Daytona for the first time in 1991.
You've been hooked ever
Yeah,
since.
yeah. If I didn't, if I wasn't all in before, definitely after that I was all in. So we spent the weekend in Florida, but she's from Florida, and I grew up in a small town in West Virginia, so I didn't get a lot of exposure out in the world back then. And turns out the travel service office on North Fort, as a Guard member, you get discounted park tickets to theme parks. You can go on hunting trips. You can go on hiking trips, skiing, canoes. All this stuff is right at your fingertips, and we take full advantage of the ticketing services. We get the military freedom pass for Universal Orlando, even though we live completely across the country.
I do not have that. I will be.
Yeah.
I'll be looking into that and share it.
Military freedom pass at Universal Orlando. I don't know the exact price. The two, they have three parks that it's available at. 2 parks is somewhere around $220, and the third park is a water park, somewhere around $240. But it is good until December 19th. You can go as much as you want.
Yeah.
Just think of a single day ticket.
Yeah.
As a civilian, yeah. It's like $160, $180 for one day.
We did an episode on the passes for Disney World, and it was amazing. We, in some ways, we spent more than we normally do, but it still was such an incredible savings for that. I think it was 4 days or 5 days that we were there.
Yeah.
And it was worth it. And I hope soldiers are taking advantage of those benefits that they get.
There is not an organization out there that has more affordable access than the Military Travel Office. AAA members, AARP, whatever, you cannot get a cheaper ticket than a military member can at your local ticket office for theme parks. It's beyond. I can't believe they're charging that. It's almost like a courtesy fee, because you get full access to the parks at such a discounted rate. I mean, it's less than a single day in some cases, and you get like 2-3 days of park access. Crazy. And it's all because you're a Guard member.
So now, is Washington going to remain home for you, or you? I don't want to ask things that I shouldn't, but no, it's you know, I know some states have better benefits for soldiers when they retire, or have a certain percentage of disability. Yeah. Washington's behind a lot of states for some of those. But is your next adventure gonna be here locally, or is it?
No, I'm always going to have a special place for Washington. It's been nothing but phenomenal for my family from when we moved here. I worked on Travis Pastrana's race car at Dirtfish when we first moved here. That was one of my first jobs. And just the friends and opportunities we've had here are just immeasurable. But we are going to move back east. I'm going to go back into racing and keep going there. But touching on that, I did want to talk about some of those opportunities that we got here. I think it's important to get that connection to community, and the best way to do that is to volunteer. somewhere in the community. It does help your guard career. It's showing that you're making efforts with the opportunities that are presented to you is to volunteer in the community. And I encourage soldiers to volunteer with what interests them. If they like going fishing, there's veteran organizations that take veterans fishing or hunting or hiking or boating, things like there's tons out there. I like motorcycles, like a lot. I'm a huge motorcycle enthusiast. I've traveled the entire country on a bike. And when we first moved here, I kind of Googled motorcycle charity ride. Da, 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 da. What's the opportunities here? And I won the lottery when I found the organization that I did. It's now closed. It's no longer a thing. But for 12 years straight, except for the year in Kosovo, so 11 years, I volunteered with the Tulip Ride out of Redmond. And again, I encourage people to do a lot of research before they just commit to something. Don't just find something, go, oh, I'll go help. Find out who they are, find out what they're doing, make sure they're legit, do all your research. But when I say I hit the lottery with this organization, I mean it. The founder was a Microsoft executive who built Xbox. So if you've ever played Xbox,
Whoa,
I know the guy that was on the team that built Xbox.
that is outstanding.
Yeah. So he organized some.
That's a cool. That's a cool flex. That's a cool
Yeah.
man.
I'm now friends with a guy named Jeff who helped build Xbox for Microsoft. But again, he was organizing kind of volunteers, and he's a motorcycle guy. So he's like, hey, fellow employees, he got on their little distro, and we're going to ride motorcycles out to the tulip fields and have lunch. If you guys donate some money, because Microsoft matches their donations, we can make an impact, and we'll give back to the Humane Society here in Seattle. Let's go have lunch and give a check to Seattle Humane Society. Well, he had started that obviously years earlier, but I found the Tulip Ride. They organize motorcycle ride. They have a meeting in Redmond. They go up and have lunch at the tulip fields, Rosengard Farms. It's one of the best tulip farms you'll ever visit. And they donate all the entry fees through Microsoft, who matches it, to Seattle Humane Society every year.
Outstanding.
I had the perfect timing to volunteer. So he's like, I sent him an email. Hey, I'd like to volunteer. I'm a motorcycle guy. I'm in the guard. He's like, oh, perfect. Yeah. Let's all get together for lunch and we'll discuss what's coming up for the ride. And I'm like, okay, cool. So we go to have lunch. I meet a couple other folks that work at Microsoft. Of course, I'm new to them, so I have to go through the whole spiel. I'm like, oh, that's great. Yeah, great to have you. We're going to go out, I think it's mid-April, we were doing the ride. And we're meeting at Blazing Bagels in Redmond. And I was like, well, I got to interject myself here and help out. So I'm going to do bike parking. So I help park all the bikes, make sure everybody's safe, nobody's getting hit by cars. So I had a job now with the ride. And and Jeff says, I'm working on something. I'll tell you guys at the next meeting before the ride. But I'm working on something. He said, I think you'll like it. Okay, whatever. So I go back to work, go back to things. A month later, we have another meetup for lunch. He goes, we're going to have celebrity guests. I'm like, oh, we're going to have celebrity guests. Woo. And this is 2012-ish. Yeah. And he's like, we're going to have two of the stars of Battlestar Galactica come and ride motorcycles with us.
From the original series or
No,
the new series?
the remake.
The remake?
The
Okay,
reboot,
right
yeah.
on.
So yeah, we have it. we've had Katie Sackhoff and Trisha Helfer as part of our
Wow.
ride for a decade.
Was she or is she as cool as, because I've seen a lot of interviews with her. It seems like
They're very personable. Their job is in TV and film, so they kind of have to make friends wherever they go, which is understandable. But they were genuinely um, engaged. They rode motorcycles at every ride. Um, one of the Harley dealers up there is very integrated with the Tulip ride, so they provided bikes and gear and stuff for everybody that needed it. It evolved into a um, we weren't making quite the impact we wanted to, so let's have a VIP dinner after the ride, and for whoever wants, um, we're going to have this dinner, a small group where you can actually talk to and interact with celebrities and make more of an impact with the donations. So the ride, I think, was $50 to enter the ride to be your donation, and the dinner. Um, Jeff, who's very experienced at Microsoft and with corporate functions and things like that, he says, we're going to make this challenging, but we want to make more of an impact. It's going to be $1,000 a head to join the VIP dinner.
wow.
But it's fully catered. You get to rub elbows with TV stars and things like that. But as a volunteer, I'm working the event, so I'm doing personal security for the celebrities. I'm making sure there's no non-donating people attending, things like that. Make sure motorcycles are safe, making sure the event venue isn't like impacted negatively, things like that. So I was fortunate enough to actually just work events instead of donating. I did donate, but that dinner continued for the next 10 years. The ride had anywhere from 250 to 350 riders every year, and the ride actually ended in 22, and in 23 we had an event in Redmond instead of a full ride. We had a band, we had food trucks, the celebrities came up and signed autographs. At this point, we had a couple more celebrities join us. Rekha Sharma, one of their co-stars, and Jonathan Fernandez, who is a actor, director, writer, producer. He and I hit it off. So, I mean, we're like best buds. He wanted to learn about helicopters. My ambition is to be an extra in a movie or TV. That's kind of one of my life goals, bucket list things. So I'm kind of picking their ear, how do I become an extra? But Jonathan and I hit it off really well. But through the bike ride and through the VIP dinners, as of 2025, we've raised almost $1 million for Seattle Humane Society.
Yep. Good grief. That's outstanding. That's outstanding. My wife will definitely appreciate, because she loved just about all things with the Humane Society, and Kitsap Humane Society is one of our big spots that we'd like to donate to. But what are some of the were there sites that you were looking at to find this? Where did you go to find?
Googled it. I Googled motorcycle charity ride, and one of the, I think it was the first or second ride that came up was Tulip ride. And like I said, when I clicked that link, it was, I won the lottery. So I'm now friends with TV and movie actors. I've made my little part of $1 million donation totals, and I've got to ride motorcycles throughout Western Washington. It's just, somebody's home kicking.
We're gonna be. I'll make a small cut there. Sounds like you need to go see Mama. I'm sure she's up there waiting for you.
But just volunteering, reaching out, has brought those opportunities to me. I've also volunteered with the Washington Motorcycle Road Racing Association. Some people call it WAMRA. I don't race, but I volunteer as a corner marshal at the two local speedways here, Pacific Raceways and the Ridge. They put out a schedule. They have a volunteer coordinator, and I signed up, and I get to go be on track as a course marshal. If a rider crashes, we have radios that report to the tower. We go out and assist the riders. It's another connection to the community that I wouldn't have had I not been here.
Now, as you're looking at going on to other pastures, are any of these groups connected out of state, or
Not so much. Not so much. The Tulip Ride was a local charity ride through Microsoft kind of connections.
So you'll be looking for the next one?
Yeah, we'll get back to the East Coast. That's where all my family is. I'm sure there's veterans organizations, or I know there's the team. One of the teams that I work for, they have a weekly coffee connection for veterans, where they clear out one of their garage areas and they have companies come in and cater coffee and snacks, and they have speakers, they have VA specialists, therapists, physical and mental therapists that come in. A lot of veteran services come in, and they'll have 100 veterans come to their race shop, because it's cool to go to a professional race team at Richard Childress Racing. They have a weekly coffee just dedicated to veterans and benefits and services, and kind of connects the team to the community. A lot of team members are veterans.
That's outstanding.
Yeah.
That's so. We'll try to get that in the link or in the description. I'd love to share that with soldiers. So we're near the end. We know that you're going to leave us, which sucks, because I didn't realize you were, in our world, you're actually pretty close to me.
Yeah.
Wish I had realized that. I always thought that you were farther south on the
Just about,
by the bridge.
well, gotta go through some roads, but
Yes.
about 30 minutes away.
Yes, that's awesome.
On this side of the bridge.
Well, I hope to catch up with you more before you take
for
off.
sure.
Are you staying connected with those that we've been serving with?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like I said, these are some of the best people I've ever come across in any endeavor I've been with. So we might be leaving, but I'll definitely be coming back periodically, hopefully. We'll always have, we put so much effort and invested so much in this, what we call adventure. We'd actually planned to just stay out here 2 or 3 years, and it's been 13 now. That'll be 14 by the time we leave.
Is your family excited knowing that you're coming back?
Yeah, they want me to come back. My brother runs a YouTube channel, and he wants me to get back into doing that with him. So that'll be fun.
If you end up as an extra on Star Wars or something, make sure to throw my name in there to help. Like, hey, I know a guy who can gas the vehicles.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm that dude.
That's my next big bucket list. Is I want to be an extra in a TV or film production somewhere somehow. And if it's Star Wars, I mean, I do know Bo-Katan personally.
How cool is that? That just I am
my motorcycle buddy.
Like my favorite, even though I love the fact that she's in Star Wars now, but I remember my favorite photo was with her in the original Starbucks, when they're sitting at a Starbucks coffee shop together. I was like, how more awesome could you get?
She has that picture in her house autographed, hanging on her wall.
Man, I would trade all 3 of my sisters for that. That's awesome. Well, again, I want to thank you for your service. I want to thank you for the professional in friendship that your group was always great whenever I was on the flight line. I always enjoyed coming to see what latest creation that you all had made in your office, or just knowing that you shared the burden and the professionalism. I think your whole group just had that same hey, this is going to be the best. We are going to give you the best work, the best service in what we're doing. And in aviation, you can't have a second best.
Mhm.
It's so thank you for that. Um, I left all the Marine crayon jokes out just for you on this. Some of you won't be so lucky when you come on. I know who you are.
I was in the
So
air wing. Okay, we were a little smarter than the ground division guys. Yeah.
outstanding. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you'd like to share?
We covered pretty much everything. Yeah, that connection with community is something that I think every soldier needs to remember. Get out there and volunteer. The Guard has so many opportunities. Even if the specialty that you're in isn't quite what you thought it was, there are tons of opportunities to lateral move to something else. You see soldiers all the time that go from one position to another, and their success just skyrockets. So keep an open mind, and as an old guy, do the PT. Okay, do the PT. I know it's a little hard to do in the Guard, but I only failed. Let's partially failed one PT test because I had a slip disc in my back, and I wasn't really taking care of myself when that happened. But I came back 4 days later and passed the PT test. So officially, I've never failed a PT test.
Right on, right on.
But do the PT. Do those silly Army courses. There's they're so easy. Just knock them out. Do BLC or whatever they're calling it now, WLC. Get those knocked out, because there's nothing but success on the backside of that. Yeah,
Right on.
success is in your hands.
You have a good journey, and again, hope to see you sooner rather than later,
Yeah.
especially before you head out. And who knows, maybe one day I'll catch up with you at Universal Studios too.
You never know.
That would be outstanding.
Yeah, that would be so much fun. I've shared it with a couple of folks already. My wife and I, we met Pablo down at Disneyland,
Oh wow!
and just recently, another fellow soldier and I were in two different schools at the same base at Fort Rucker. So we were hanging out, and unofficially, we went to Orlando and went to Universal Studios over the weekend.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I got to scare him to death on my favorite roller coasters, and we had a blast.
That's right on.
Yeah.
Those are the things that are cool, that are worth it's worth staying connected with your battle buddies when you get out.
Yeah,
So,
you'll never meet,
while you're in.
never meet finer people. Yeah.
Right on. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks,
We'll-
buddy.